so the mindset that I literally do for a job translates very well to this mindset, which is kind of having the mindset of you could always do something better, right? And in the spirit of continuous improvement, it kind of blends really well with, what we're all here to do. We'll talk a little bit more about our financial journey in a second, but I'll let Justin introduce himself.
Yeah, so I'm Justin. I came to Baltimore 11 years now through Teach for America. I've been a middle school math teacher in Baltimore City since 2011. And I found the Choose FI group from my future brother-in-law here, who sent me episode 13, which is headlined by the Millionaire Educator. And there's not many things in my life I would say this totally turned me from, it moved me in a whole nother direction on life. And that episode did. And I could thank Joe for sending me that episode. And I was actually on a podcast 2 days ago and he guest hosted with me and it was a cool, full circle, the Millionaire Educator guy. And I got to meet for the first time on the podcast. It was really cool. But I've been teaching, 11 years. I found FI in 2016 or 17. And I started a financial planning coaching business 3 years ago now, which has grown. And that's been my story. So we're gonna try something very different I do with my students. This is a way for everyone to be very interactive and a safe place. So in my classroom, we use a tech platform called Pear Deck, and it allows my slides to come alive so that you guys can ask questions and be involved in a community way here instead of just sitting here listening. You're gonna be able to participate. So if you have a laptop or if you have your phone, if you can go and open up an empty browser, and you're gonna type in joinpd.com. Okay, so let's do a little practice in Pear Deck. This is how this works. So on your screen right now, an option should have came up for you guys to make a quick response. So this is our little practice activity. So when you're in, if you could just put your first name, how far did you drive to get here today, and how many meetings have you been to? So an example is Justin, 24 minutes, I think 8, I don't know.
Where do I?
How do I enter?
It's going to come up automatically, so I can see your screen type right now.
Oh. Nice.
Yeah.
Good.
Who's got the longest? Trish, you got the longest drives? The usual?
Okay, how am I feeling today? 4 hours.
4 hours?
Who's the 4 hours?
Oh my gosh.
Where are you coming from? Nice.
Okay.
Well, we better make
that's
today
dedication.
really special. Oh my God. Kate and Joe are good friends. They're here for the weekend, and they flew in from Buffalo and from Atlanta, so they might be the farthest. All right, everybody in? Let's see who else we got here today. We got 10 minutes, 20 minutes, Dan, 30 minutes, but didn't follow directions, didn't put the last, how many meetings you've been to. Kate, 24 minutes. Who's came in first here? Nikki. Yeah. Oh yeah, we already spoke. Hi, Nikki. So glad you're here. Awesome. Okay, so let's do one more quick practice here. So I saw this question on Facebook the other day. I'm curious to know people's opinions in here. What philosophy suits you better? Live for the moment, plan for the future. And that icon, there's a little star. Feel free, it doesn't have to necessarily be on one or the other. Where do you feel on a spectrum? Is it somewhere, could it be in the or right in the middle? Where do you find your stars? So when I do financial planning with my 6th graders, I ask this question a lot. You can imagine most of them are here. I have a few savers over here, but most are here. Yeah, it's fun depending on what group it is. Cool. Awesome, next one. Guys, that was a warm-up. That was great with Pear Deck. Yes, that was great. My God, it took me 6 months to get that with students during COVID, so that was good. That was good. All right, Paulina.
So when we think about financial independence, I'm going to talk a little bit about how we have it defined here, and then talk a little bit about what it means to us. So financial independence is the ability to maintain your desired lifestyle with that earned income. It's not about not working, but rather having the flexibility to work because you want to rather than because you have to. For us, that really, really resonates with why we are doing this financial journey altogether, to have that flexibility to do whatever we want, whenever we want. We both are very fortunate that we fall into a bucket of people that we actually enjoy working. But having that flexibility to do it on our own time and do the type of work that we want to do is really what we're striving to achieve over time.
So our two main big goals, when you think about like, Paulina and I talk about this a lot. I'm so lucky to have Paulina as a partner. We are on the same page in this journey, and we've been since 2016. So it's amazing to play a two-player game at this game, right? Because we have two people making the same goals and the same movements towards them. So our two main goals, number one is to reach, and our version of Co-Step Fi is to have $1.5 million. And that's for us to be able to live on $60,000, which we think would be actually a pretty reasonable budget when we end up growing a family. And that will allow us to totally decide on the side hustles that we want to do are irrelevant between how much money we make and how much time we spend on them. So we want to keep working. I love that my side hustle that's really turned into my second job. Paulina's in her journey of trying to find what's right for her. But our main goal is, though, once we get here, this becomes, hey, this might become $1 billion business someday, but it also just may be something we choose, and it's just we don't need it. So I think where we are in life, who knows if this is going to change, but we want to get here so that we can do whatever we want here. I think one also important, go back to that, Paulina. In my mind, when we think about our definition of a side hustle, it has to meet these criteria, to me, is like what makes sense, where the journey we're trying to go to. The first is something we love. Second of all, time and location flexibility, or else what's the point? And then third, makes a difference. For us, that's really important. The thing that we're doing, is it moving the needle on other people's lives? And then last, hopefully profitable, so we don't have to touch the nest egg. But there might be some years that we might have to dip into this a little bit, but our goal is truthfully to have a side hustle we really love, that's flexible, that we actually don't ever have to touch the nest egg that we built with our 9-to-5s that we're starting to wrap up with soon.
So to elaborate a little bit more on our why behind Fi, as I shared earlier, we really want to be able to maximize what we are doing and be able to have the flexibility to do that whenever we want with whoever we want. Part of that, I think, speaks to having this community where we are, getting other people, other friends, other people that we can enjoy some of that time with. We want to be able to work, but have flexibility. So like I said, we both fall in that bucket where we enjoy working and we don't want to just sit around and do nothing, but having the flexibility to choose what we work on and who we work on it, whenever we want to work on it, is really something that we're trying to achieve. We want to be able to travel when no one else does. Justin and I have been really fortunate over the last several years to do a lot of traveling. And it's nice to be able to do that not on the holidays, right? If we think about a teacher, they're forced to work during the school year, and they only get set weeks where you can really travel, and those are the peak times to travel. So having the flexibility to be able to not do that during those peak times can be a huge money saver for us. We want to be able to have the flexibility to raise our family and both have the ability to be home and not miss anything when we start to grow a family. So that's huge for us. It really speaks to the need to have a side business that has that flexibility that will allow us to do that. And then lastly, have the freedom to take risks. We're both very fortunate. We grew up in families that the reality is, even if we wanted to take risks right now without being financially independent, we would have someone to fall back on. But it'd be great to be able to have that financial support on our own, that whatever journey we would want to take, any risk that we want to take, we'd have the flexibility and freedom and feel confident to be able to do that.
Yeah. All right, so back to Pear Deck. We ready, class? Yes. So just curious to know if you can just throw one thing that kind of comes to your mind, just so we can kind of hear what's going on in the room here. What's your why? Is it more time with family? Is it travel? Is it flexibility? Is it less stress? Like, what is your why? They have a Google issue.
Yeah, it won't let me reset my password. It just keeps taking me back to the same.
Gotcha. I wish you didn't need to get in through that.
I know. It's okay.
We're getting a lot of good ones up here. So we have not to work, having some freedom. Life is too short. to spend it all in an office. I think that's very relatable. Having the time to read, time to walk, no pointless meetings or alarm clocks.
Here, you can use mine.
Freedom to do what I want when I want, not do a bunch of what I don't enjoy. So we're hearing some really common themes here, guys.
This is Paulina's first time using Pear Deck. She was very nervous coming in today. She's kicking butt, isn't she? Look at her go.
This is my lesson learned for today. Pear Deck.
What's really cool is I can go to another screen and I can actually see everybody's names and all the responses. For you guys, the whole point is to actually keep this totally not names driven, but it's cool. It's really nice when I'm answering questions and students can submit in what they got, and I can immediately then do a one-on-one chat with them. Hey, what's your misconception? So it's a pretty cool app. Were you able to get it?
Yeah.
Cool. Yep, go ahead. All right, so when we think about, I was thinking about this a lot, and I do this a lot with the clients that I serve, is like the framework that we use for this. Paulina and I talk about this a lot. It's again, big part of who we are, and I think this is kind of what our cycle is of reaching these goals. The first is both her and I, over many years, or our first few years of our relationship, we were all constantly talking about this, and also with our community, is what's the motivation that keeps us going towards these goals. So I think to have that as a foundation is really key. That's what we just did. These 2 and 3 is all the technical stuff, which we're going to get into here in a minute. So 2 is, I think the number one most important thing is what's the cash flow situation? And the biggest thing is what's the gap between income and expenses? That is the driving force to everything. Like how much money do you have coming in? How much money how much money is going out? How much money do you need to live? And then how do you grow this gap? How do you decrease expenses and increase income to get there faster? So we're going to talk a lot about this today. This is our middle of our presentation. I think this is key. And then 3 is, what do we do with that extra money? What should we do with the gap? And that's all the learning stuff that we've learned through FI, and we've come up with our strategy that works. So we're going to talk a little bit today what we do for cash flow and how we've been able to grow this gap to make this journey go so much quicker than we ever imagined. And the 3 is, what do we do with our dollars after that? Which in here, everyone has their own way. All right. And so we'll share ours, and then you're going to have an opportunity to share any parts that you want to share. That what's your way? For example, Alex with real estate. We don't own a single property. We don't even own the house we live in. We are very happy that way. We will get our goals our way. But there's a lot of real estate people that they do it their way, and that's cool too. The last thing at the end, which I think Paulina is the best at, is just the constant monitoring, reflecting, improving, revising that we've been able to do kind of year after year, month after month. And so we'll talk about our strategies around that. So let's start with the cash flow here. So as I just shared before, I share this with clients all the time. It's like the most simplest, and I do this with my students, the 6th graders all the time. We do this kind of stuff. The number one thing here, the secret to our success is for us to control our controllables. And the 2 things that we can control is how much money we have coming in, how much money we have going out to create this gap. And so keep the next slide. So I like this diagram. I show this to people a lot, and I just think this is a really cool visual that made sense to me. The majority of Americans are in this situation. They've got everything going on in their life all the time, and it's just this big wheel of working their tails off over and over and over again. And their income is this box. And every dollar that comes in, the wheel keeps turning. And there's never this gap that's created. So I think the secret to our success is our gap has gotten so big every year, over and over and over again. And so I love this picture because this is, our income should be growing. Our expenses should be staying the same or shrinking that's been our strategy. And in between is where, based on your preference, where your dollars go. Do they go to a business? Do they go to real estate? Or do they go to stocks and bonds or anything else that you choose that you're investing in your strategy? And this is so fun in here because I get to learn from you guys about all these different things that I don't do. I pretty much do this and this. I do nothing here. And everybody here has their own way. So I just like that diagram because I think it routes for us what works for us is how to drive income higher and how to really shut down expenses of things we don't need and don't care about. Keep going, next one. All right, so before we get into the next one, I would love to hear in this room here, there's a Pear Deck slide. You can choose either one you want. And we have this conversation a lot. It's always talking about value. So I'm curious for you guys, choose either question 1 or 2 in your Pear Deck. What about money is important to you? Or 2, And what are the things that you spend money on that actually drive your happiness? Anyone have a few of those things? Give people a few minutes. So if you can write like number one, your answer, or you can do number two in your answer. You can do both. You can do one of them. Alex, is this your first Pear Deck experience?
Yes.
Yeah? There's another one out there called Nearpod. That's very popular. That does something similar.
So as a reminder, the questions are, number one, what about money is important to you? And number two, what makes you happy?
What's some common trends we see here?
So we see a lot about freedom, right? So having that flexibility that I think we're all looking to achieve.
A lot of people mention mountain biking. That's a popular one.
We see a lot of travel as far as things that make you happy.
Everything, I mean, almost across the board, the word is choice.
Yeah.
Right? Choice, 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 choice. Choice to do this, choice to do that. Focus on travel, focus on health, having time. Yeah, cool.
Yeah, this is a really great answer. I don't know who put this, but as far as things that make you happy, spending on healthy foods, fun experiences and travel, and developing relationships.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Cool. Such a common trend here, right? That's what's cool about the community. You got a lot of people on the same mentality of that. All right. So when I do this with clients, I serve about 8 people now. I do this activity with them before we do our budgeting activity every single time. And every single time I meet with someone, no matter how much money they're in debt or how much money they have in assets, almost every person says exactly what you just shared. No matter where they are in the world, no matter where they come from, no matter the race that they are, whether I'm female, male, it's always the same almost. It's always about security for their family. It's always about choice and time. Everyone shares that. For a big question to what makes you happy, almost across the board from clients, I hear the same thing. Time with family and friends, travel, constantly learning, these types of things. It's very common in humans. But what's interesting, whenever I look at most people's budgets, this is not matching. And what's unique about what people in this room is most people are spending aligned to their values. But in the real world, that's not the case. And almost every time I do a budget activity with somebody, these two things, especially my folks who live in Baltimore City with me, my young clients, almost everybody, it's this. And it's never once mentioned makes you happy. Very rarely does a client say, hey, this drives my happiness going to a 5-star Michelin restaurant down in Harbor East. Very few say that. That's their driving force. But I look at their budget, they spent $500 last night on dinner, right? And so these two things, Amazon purchases is another one, which is very common during COVID, eating out and your car expenses. Never have I heard a client ever tell me their car drives their happiness. I haven't heard it. They might like it, but it doesn't drive their happiness. I haven't heard that before. And almost always I see a $500 a month car payment, $400 a month car payment. It's not matching. So that's what's so cool about, I find around this people in this community is they kind of get this. So Paulina, how do you think for us, when we think about like our number one strength, I would say is our ability to be able to be tactical around increasing income and really good about keeping expenses ridiculous. So what are some things we've done?
Yeah, so one thing to point out is knowledge is power, right? So one of the things, to talk a little bit about Justin's journey. So he works for Baltimore City as a teacher. And one of the things that he did that a lot of people don't do is that he actually spent a lot of time reading through his contract, word by word. And what he found in that was that there are a couple of things that is pretty amazing that Baltimore City offers. So he did Teach for America. That's how he ended up getting placed here in Baltimore. And one of the things that they offer is this model teacher program. And that model teacher program gives you the opportunity based off of students' scores, right, and how well students grow, you are able to get compensation increases, and pretty significant ones. And so Justin, over very few years of starting to work with Baltimore City, was able to pretty much double his salary by getting these massive increases in pay based off of student performance. In addition to that, Baltimore City actually offers this really amazing program that gives you, after 7 years of becoming a teacher and staying as a teacher, not taking an administrative role, you're able to apply for a sabbatical year. And so in 2018, Justin took a sabbatical year. And over the course of that year, we spent a lot of time traveling. I was still working during the time, so he did some trips on his own. But also grew the business that he currently now has over the course of that year, and did a lot. It wasn't launched at that point in time, but spent that year getting all the certifications and studying to pretty much decide that was the journey that he wanted to do. But knowing all those rules and all of those offerings that the city offered is something that a lot of people don't actually take the time to look into their contracts. He's a very hard worker. He's pretty much working 2 jobs right now. I'm not trying to blow up his head, but he is a very hard worker. And so he's always worked summers. When he was growing up, he actually started a lawn mowing business and was able to use that money to pay his way through college. Oh.
There we go.
Okay. Am I pressing something, or is it the connection? Okay. Yeah, so that lawn mowing business was able to grow, and he was able to actually pass that off to his parents later down the line, who helped grow the business ever more. But that working over the summers, which teachers have that flexibility of not having school over the summers, really was able to move the needle for him. Working after school programs as well. And so Justin, not that you get a lot of income from it, but Justin spent a lot of time coaching and doing other extracurricular programs for students, which benefits the students, but also benefits himself from a compensation perspective. Side hustles, right? So Joe is my partner over here. We've gone through over the last 2 years, not only is my brother, but we've been able to partner up and do 2 side businesses over the last 2 years, 2 that have failed, and we've learned lots of things from it. Mm-hmm. But hopefully our third will be a better outcome. But nonetheless, we've had that journey. But Justin will talk a little bit more about his business in a little bit. But he's been able to grow his financial business into something that is pretty incredible, and will actually give him the flexibility to hit that side hustle that he really won't have to teach anymore moving forward, and be able to rely on that. From my end, as far as optimizing my employer compensation options, I have also been able to really look into the rules and compensation offerings that my company offers. And so my base salary, I spent a lot of time on the road. And so I travel to different healthcare facilities to do different things and improve processes. And the way that I am paid, I have a base salary that pays for me working at a client site for 13.5 days of the month. Anything above that, I get paid an extra utilization pay for those days. And so if I strategically plan out my vacation time and the days that I take off, I'm able to really optimize on earning a pretty large bonus on the months that have like 5 weeks during that month. And so really being strategic about how I'm working and just understanding the rules of the business that we're in. So that's a couple of ways that we've been able to increase income. As far as decreasing expenses, we rent a house, and so we don't own anything right now. And last year we spent, there was 4 of us living in a house together. Justin and I have a pretty small room that we share. And just by having that smaller space and renting, we've been able to really decrease our monthly rent, which includes splitting our utilities. We have a 2005 Honda Accord. It's a very beat up car, but it does the job. It's sitting out here, and the roof of the car is falling out, and you'll see we'll have lots of tacks on the top of our car, but it still works just fine. We don't do a lot of eating out, and so that's a huge money saver for us. We both enjoy cooking, but it's huge to be able to not eat out. We optimize on all these. We love all these, and when possible, we buy in bulk. We do a lot of travel rewards, so we really try hard to travel hack whenever possible, and I can't really remember the last time that we've ever paid for a flight. And so really leveraging and understanding the rules of those games has been huge for us. Justin talked about not having an Amazon account, and then Justin, one of the driving forces for him to start his business was kind of getting screwed over a little bit by a financial advisor that didn't have his financial interests kind of at heart when he had him sign up for a life insurance policy. And that was a huge expense in the beginning, but by doing an analysis for that and deciding to get rid of that policy, that was a huge money saver for us.
Also just cutting a lot of different insurances that we could now self-insure. Like as you get a little more wealthier, you can start to get rid of a lot of the expenses and just think, what are the things that actually matter? What are the catastrophes you're blocking for, and not the small little things anymore? So example, our car insurance, we just have bare bone. You know, we're not gonna have comprehensive and all that kind of stuff anymore because our car goes, we're gonna buy a new one anyway. So just like constantly looking at insurances, which are, you know, waste of money except for the big things that you're trying to protect, which is health of others, death, all those types of things. So Pear Deck, guys, choice. Number 1 and 2. I'd love to hear from you guys. I think this would be a cool learning activity. There's so much knowledge in this room. So either one or both. We'd love to hear choice 1. What's one creative way that you've increased your income over your lifetime? Is there any cool ideas you have or that you want to share out? And number 2 is, do you have any creative way you've decreased your expenses that I think other people might learn from? We'll give people a few minutes to type. Feel free to type as little, as much as you want. Anybody who wrote the max out ESPP, generate cash, anybody want to share out what that meant? Yep.
ESPP program used correctly is a very huge cash.
What is the ESP program?
Sorry, employee stock purchase program.
Yep.
And obviously you have to work for a company that is a stock owned company, but it's little understood, but it's not an investment thing, it's a cash generation done properly.
Yeah, I always find you commenting, helping people on 2 main things, Glenn, is that seems like you're really niched, like you is that, and also a lot of the solar panel work and DC and Maryland. Yeah, it's awesome. Anyone else want to share out anything that they typed?
I see one signed up to donate plasma. You did that one?
Yeah.
That's pretty awesome. Okay, what's that process like?
So the first time we go there, like a health check, and it's a little bit longer, but oh, sorry, thanks. But yeah, then essentially you're paid sort of on a like a debit kind of card thing. But so the idea that I have really is to just not touch it, just over the course of a year, just keep adding to it, and then when I'm done, see what I have, and I'll put it either in a high yield or invest it or something like that.
That's awesome. Yeah, and great for the community. It's great for the community too. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Also, the Mint Mobile, I know there's a lot of switching in the Choosify, and talk about that. Who typed that one? Is anyone willing to share about? Would you want to share a little bit about your decision around that?
So I switched for both my my partner and myself, and so we were spending about $100 a month each for, I don't know, we had Verizon or AT&T, one of those, and now it's about $15 a month.
Wow. Cool.
Yeah.
Big savings.
Absolutely.
And it's okay, but we're in the city.
You switched 5 people over?
They all just went right over. So
It's the same phone, it's just a different. Right. Wow. I like the sharing Netflix and Spotify counts. Yeah, that's. Who's the spreadsheet maniac? That's you. Do you want to share a little bit about what your thought on that is? Like, what's your strategy, and then like, what do you keep track of for data?
What I've learned is I try not to have like 1,000 different budget accounts. I just sort of have the big ones, and then just sort of a big everything else, because that way it makes it easy, and by sort of looking at it on a monthly, yearly basis, so I can go and every year and sort of see, are we spending our values here?
I love
We're
it.
spending this much on travel. Is that okay? If we say okay, then we spend it. And then if I go, well, we're spending a little too much on something else, then let's try cutting it back.
Cool. I love it.
Try not to sweat the small stuff.
Yeah. Anyone else have one out there that they feel like they'd really like to share out?
Well, you guys talked about it already, but the points, using points for travel, I
Yeah.
travel a lot.
Yeah.
For me, a couple times a year is a lot, and for weeks at a time. And we didn't spend anything for the expense of this trip in January.
That's awesome.
I also like the don't buy drinks with meals and reduce eating out. I give this a lot. I give this a lot of suggestions to people I'm serving. It's like, have a drink at home before going out. You get your food that you want to eat out, and then come back and have your nightcap at home if that's your thing. Versus, because we know that's the tab really runs up when we're drinking out. So if that's your thing, that's a great suggestion.
Who wrote a capsule wardrobe?
Do
What
you
is
mind,
that?
Do you mind
You want
sharing?
Sharon?
No? Okay.
Yeah, okay.
Sounds good. Cool. Anybody else want to leave anyone else wanted to share something? Cool. Thanks for sharing, guys. Paulina, do you want to do this? Talk about this one?
Sure. So Justin has done a really great job. He's also likes to track things. And so he's done a really great job really from the beginning of his financial journey to track his expenses and keep things pretty transparent. So he's able to compare that to what you have now. So what you see on here, I kind of want to highlight, you'll see expenses here. And what we really want to highlight is this gap number that you see down below. So you could see 2012, his expenses. You can see his income down there compared to 2020. What's the big takeaway here? If you compare those two numbers, what do you guys take away from that?
Salary went up huge and expenses went down.
Exactly. So it's really hitting on that common theme for today, right? What are ways that we can increase our income and decrease our expenses to build that gap number to be even greater over time?
Yeah, I think for me in particular, the travel, my first year or two, traveling's always been huge for me. My first, second year in Baltimore, I didn't travel hack at all. And I'm very happily spending money on travel. But on the bottom left, you can see I've done a lot better trips in 2020, but I only spent, $6,000 on summer versus $2,000. And then either holiday or spring break, our travels also went down significantly, and we've done better trips. It's just because we figured out a travel hack. So that's a huge part of that going down. And we've been able to be more generous, and also entertainment's gone down a lot. This was partly because of COVID, but also we've just gotten a little smarter about when we go out and why, and just fine tune some of these things.
Those income numbers, take home number.
It's after tax, yeah.
Is there a monthly rental on the umbrella charges that you're experiencing?
It's that's funny.
Because I could buy you one.
That's another piece too. That's funny. At our last meeting 2 years ago, one of the big pushbacks when I did this was, Justin, it's time for umbrella insurance. Your net worth's getting large enough, and so that's why that went up. Our car insurance did the same, up. Umbrella insurance. Thank you. Umbrella insurance. Thank you. Oh yeah. Okay. Yes, the leaky car roof. You have to have liability insurance up to $300,000. You don't need comprehensive. They did require it? Yeah, so when I went to umbrella, it increased just the liabilities up a little bit. But they didn't, I still don't have the other two. Yeah. Okay, cool.
I just want to note, it's a shame that you have to pay the class.
Oh, yeah. There's always extras you need. That's gone down a little bit. My first year or two was a little bit more. So. Yeah, and again, Paulina's picture is better than mine actually, even with this. Income pretty much, this is the reason why the income went down is on sabbatical. My income was cut in half. So that's why that downward spiral in 17, 18. But expenses almost stayed identical throughout all this, and our income's only gone way up. And this has been really our catapult to how I did not expect this to go so quick. It's just because we were able to drive expenses down, our income together both has increased quite substantially. And so the gap now, I mean, the gap's pretty insane now. Especially with the business money and the teaching money, the gap's wild. So you're just putting tons of money away, and we don't need it. So same thing here. These are rounding, so these aren't exactly, but pretty close here. 2012 there versus 2016. Still was smart enough to put a Roth away early on, 2012. But expenses again were high, and the amount of post-tax savings was low. Paulina, her first year on the right, when she graduated from college, was 16. And all of her post-tax savings, which was pretty substantial, she paid off her college debt in a year and a half. She had like 50 grand of debt she paid off. And that was her main focus during those 2 years. And then now our income's again only gone up. We figured out where to put our money in more strategic ways because of Choose FI and pre-tax accounts. Paulina learned what an after-tax account is, now can do the mega backdoor Roth at her place. I learned I can do a 403b and 457 and put away, $39,000 of pre-tax money. And so a lot of things to be able to drive our tax rate down a little bit and put away quite a bit of money. That was a result of Choose FI. I went through the CFP coursework, and that's all for helping rich people. But the Choose FI stuff has been, to me, a lot more beneficial than this. So our savings rate has been this year around 60 to 65%, which is, we're able to just put, again, this year is our most profitable year because income's high, expenses are low. We'll be able to just drive almost $130,000, $140,000 away. And our first year, I was able to save like $4 million. That was 10 years ago. So it's been really fun. So, yeah, this is a year for sure. This is be my last very expensive year because I'm leaving teaching in June.
2021 even better than 2020.
Yeah.
Very
Yeah.
nice.
What I like to help people with when I work with them is identifying their order of operations and checking down the list, right? So this is what we, at the beginning of each year, we set up like, hey, what are we trying to make sure we complete for goals? So I'll start and then Paulina can go. We keep very little money on the sidelines. We don't have a lot of, the only thing that could happen, honestly, with an emergency that we always will need to worry about is our car will break down at some point. And we're going to get married soon. And so like, besides that, we really don't have a lot of money that we need on the sidelines. So everything is in the market all the time. We don't keep a lot of cash out. So both of us keep a really little amount of money in our checking account, our savings account, and our emergency funds. And then everything after that is 100% stock. Every single thing, all the way down the list. So our Roths, Paulina can max out our HSA. I do the 457, 403b. Both of us do the Maryland 529 program. And if you're new to Maryland, talk to me about that afterwards. It's a really unique, really amazing thing around here. You get a lot of free money towards paying off student loans or paying for your kids' college. Paulina and I both, the last 2 years, discovered my business now I can do a solo 401k, and I can do now a mega backdoor Roth IRA, which is more higher level FI stuff. And Paulina can contribute 10% of her pay, her company allows, into another after tax. So it allows her to put more money in her Roth. And then every other dollar after that goes to our brokerage account. And we just work through this list and we try to turbo load everything and we just go line by line all the way down, pretty much throughout the course of the year.
Good question on the 529. Do you guys do the like prepaid tuition route, or you do the other route where it's like a fund?
So the number one thing we got from a Choose FI meeting in person was that the Maryland 529 investment program allows you, based on your income, to put a minimum amount of money in, and the state will match it every year. So, for example, if Paulina and I Paulina has her account for me and her account for her, she can put a minimum amount of money in, and the state gives her a free amount of money every year, and I do the same. So if you go to maryland529.com, it'll pretty much spell this out for you. It's called the State Contribution Program. I learned that at this meeting 2 years ago, and now we're $4,000 or $5,000 of free money by now. Nope, everybody.
Have you compared the tax benefit of?
Yeah, the tax deduction is worthless. I mean, it's only, you think, not worthless, but you're like $2,500 tax deduction, and the state income tax is what, 5 to 7, 8%. If you do the math out, it's not a. What's that?
Credit that they're giving, that the match that Maryland's doing now.
So the match is if your income is if you're single and your income's under $87,000, then you only need to put $100 in each account, and the state will give you $500 free dollars. If you're single and your income is between 87 and 120, I think, it's $250, and the state will give you $250. After that, if you're making more than that, do the deduction. You're already up too high. So that's usually the threshold.
Higher.
Yeah, and the deadline is you have to apply for that program between January 1st and May 31st every year. Just go to maryland529.com, go to state contribution, and you can read all about it, or just reach out to me. We've done it like 4 years now. And That was something we got from this group 3 or 4 years ago, and we've done it every year now.
Are you guys using that to pay off student loans, or is it?
Yeah, we're going to use it
kids
because it's
later
free
on?
money, and at some point, there's going to be somebody that we want to go to school with, or our kids will want to go to school with. There's no reason for it except why not? It's free. It's like,
So that even if you don't have kids.
yeah, that's what, yeah. So like us, we max out. She does one for her, one for me. I do one for me, one for her. So that's 4 accounts. Each one's bringing in. But when our income was lower, it was bringing in. That's $2,000 a year for free. Yeah. And if you have kids, so if me and Paulina each have 2 kids, that's 4 accounts for me, 4 accounts for her, $500 each account, $4,000 each year. Is that right? Yeah,
You
$4,000.
can even do it for like a brother or sister if they have a Maryland address.
You have to have a
So.
rooming account?
No. No, good question. Mm-mm. Look at that chart though. It's $500 if your income's there. It's great. So hey, if you haven't done it yet, $500 today. You're welcome, everybody. All right. Somebody did that for me a while ago. So I'd love to know your financial order operations and hear kind of what if you don't feel comfortable sharing, you don't have to, but if you're interested in sharing, love to hear kind of your order. What are you trying? We think about 2022. What's your financial savings order of operations? What's your list going down? Glenn's like, I'm retired. I don't need nothing, yo.
I'll make the spending version.
There you go. Number 1, spending only.
Are you supposed to pair deck this?
Yes. Oh, it does? I didn't put the writing one?
Yeah, I don't.
Oh, okay.
think
Does anyone want to share them out then? This one allows you can actually you can literally start writing on the slide. Yeah. So you can do that. Paulina, click this, the 3rd box over.
This one?
Yeah. Yeah. So it goes all over top. So let's start writing. Let's see what happens here. You can imagine the inappropriate things I get from 6th graders if I do this sometimes.
One I can put for me is my job offers the backdoor Roth conversion option. And so,
You're talking about the mega backdoor Roth?
yeah,
Mhm.
yeah. And then, so what I do in January is I set my paycheck to be like 90%, boom, right off the bat.
Yeah.
So I kind of front load everything. That's my order operation. I do that first.
Cool. So that, for anyone in the room, he's talking about turbo loading or max, putting the most amount in your 401k as early as possible in the year. That's only works if your match is not spread out over the course of the year. It's a common error that some people make. They want to turbo load, but their match is only for pay to pay. If you get a true up where your company gives you an extra amount of money at the end of the year to make that up, or if they give you the match like Paulina's the following year, then that's fine to do. Like Paulina's company gives her a match in February from the year before, so turbo load away. But if your company's giving you a match over the course of the year, that would not be the most financially savvy move.
How do you clear your phone?
Don't know. But man, does anybody else want to share a little bit about their order of operations? I want to make sure what works for them.
There we go.
So like this person's trying to pay off debt, which is great, and then moving to the emergency fund, and then doing the match, then moving to the Roth, and then going back to saving for a car or house. Cool. I like that order.
So you have your way listed here, but
No, that I just put random.
that's not in
No.
order.
Just a lot of, like I don't have a match or anything.
Isn't there kind of like a correct way to go through it though?
Yeah. So typically,
Some people might prioritize certain things.
And that's what's available to you too.
Right, what's
HSA,
available-
Not everyone has an HSA, for instance. But if you have one,
right.
it influences what you do.
Typically, the company match is what people are, for saving wise. Their company match, then the HSA, then come back to filling up your 401k or the Roth, depending on what you're trying to do for your taxes. And also, a lot of people, I put this on the bottom, but this is only for us are at the bottom because before we learned about financial independence, we were putting a lot of money in that. And so our brokerage account's already very large. But for a lot of folks, not having a brokerage account, if you're retiring early, it's really nice to have the flexibility of the brokerage account. And it's not taxed heavily. So I really, even though I put that on the bottom, it's only just because Paulina and I, before finding the Choose FI, we didn't do a lot of pre-tax planning. So our accounts are very large for brokerage accounts. So we're trying to kind of Yeah, exactly. We are way out of balance in the beginning. Where I meet a lot of people who start the Choosify journey early on in their journey, and they have almost all pre-tax dollars. And I think there might be a little out of balance too. So it just depends. All right, then we'll move to the investment section. So here's been our kind of strategy over time here. And 2011, I had a financial planner who sold life insurance. So his number one priority, if you look at his priorities, it was aligned to what was best for him and not for me. It was make sure I have a whole life insurance. I was 22, no debt, no kids. And for some reason, I needed a whole life insurance plan. But I trusted him at that time. He set me up with a Roth and a brokerage account. The brokerage account was all bonds because he got a huge front load commission off of whatever there. I don't know. And then I also could have filled out the survey and said I was conservative. As far as my investment, I didn't know what the heck I was doing then. I will say the one good thing is that he did have me in a Roth so I started that at 21. So that was one positive thing I got from him. And then I was investing myself. I was getting my admin degree for teaching. In 2017, we moved into, this was kind of when we started to look at the Choosify community. And we started to go from, I'm firing this guy, I'm going to learn this stuff myself. And this was where we kind of went to as far as our order of operations. And then finally, we're here now. Both Paulina and I pretty much are down this road here, which is like, this is all the things we're going to rock through in a year now. So it's been a pretty cool journey. So our investment principles, we're really boring as far as investing. What's up?
Sorry, you wrote tax account there.
Yeah, so some of the bottom things, it was time for me to hire somebody and not do my taxes on my own. That was a good investment that I made. I found a guy who understands what I was looking to do. He's local. So that was a good investment. I pay him quite a bit of money every year and I'm really happy. He's also kind of like a business coach for me. So that was worth the investment for me for sure. Okay. And then also I have an employee now for my firm. And so that was a good investment for me.
Got another question. Good question. Like you talk about backdoor Roth.
Yeah.
For a single person, income, I think the adjusted income would need to be what,
125 to 135 is the range.
Yeah, so I think if I remember from your income a couple of slides ago, obviously
that was 2020. 2021 is the first year I was having to do it.
Okay.
Yeah. Next one. Great question though. And also to go back on that, next year I don't know where I'm going to be, and I really like to front load the Roth. So I'm going to do the backdoor anyway because I don't really know where I'm going to be, and there's no harm to doing the backdoor, even though it's an extra form. So I have a tax accountant now. So I'm probably going to still do the backdoor, even though I think my income is going to be below that next year. So I'm not sure. The business could explode. I don't know. So
that's why I did at the beginning of the year. I just do it for fun. Try to open it. It's pretty easy. You open a traditional IRA account, put the money in. 2 days later, you just click convert and then change it to Roth IRA.
Yeah.
Pretty easy action.
Yeah.
And we're still waiting on government, whether this is going to be allowed or not next year. They keep talking about the infrastructure bill, if that's going to go away or not. So our investment principles, we believe in what we can control drives this. Okay, so we have a strong belief. Paulina's a really good investor. She literally puts things in and never looks at them for like months and months and months. Never looks at the market ever. She's like the quintessential investor. We both know we can't control what the market's going to do today, tomorrow, the next day. We know we don't want to spend time thinking about stock picking and trying to beat the market. We invest in ourselves, time, family and friends, health experiences, and our skill sets. And for investments, we optimize the amount we put in. That's our thing. We can put a lot of money in because of our expenses are low. How often we put in, how automated it is, and the tax location of the accounts, the cost of the funds, what vehicle we use. But we don't own it. The only individual stock her and I own is Berkshire Hathaway. We've had that since we were young. I like that in the taxable account because there's no dividend, so there's no tax to it. That's the only individual stock that we own. Everything else is index funds. And we've been doing that for now 10 years. We don't time anything. Every dollar we have is always in it. When we get it, we put it in. We pretty much follow the rules. It's kind of like you guys are blackjack players. There's people who go there and just know the rules and they do the same thing over and over and over again every single time. And there's people next to you who put $10 in, take $10 out. They win, they put $40 in. That's not what we do. We are literally the same thing, boring, $10 table over and over and over again. We never change. We double down when it seems right, but besides that, we do the same thing over and over again. So our allocations are super simple. There's not a lot here going on. Our emergency fund is in just a money market account, not the greatest place, but it's not worth moving for an extra few dollars, in my opinion. Our brokerage account is 100% VTI, or some version of that. Our Roth and our 403B is all just diversified index funds. So there's a small cap, large cap mix. Besides that, it's all low cost index funds. Not a single fund we own is more than 0.07%. In my 457, it's not a low fee plan, but I want to still maximize the tax benefits. So the cheapest way for me to do this is just have one fund. So I only own Vanguard VTI in that. My solo 401k, same thing. And Vanguard, they charge you, if you're solo 401k, literally, if you have one fund, it's like $20 a year. But every time you open more funds, it's more expensive. So we just do VTI for that. And our 529, which is with Schwab, it's their, no, it's with, who's got the 529 account? Who's the company with? T. Rowe, thank you. So we use their version of VTI there. Paulina, 100% except for Roth IRA is just VTI. We're very boring. There's nothing special here. We know our specialty is not our investments. It's how much we put in and how often. So yeah, here's a picture. This is my solo 401k that I just opened last year. It's literally VTI and Schwab's version. I have it with Schwab. I mean, this is simple. This is my 403B. It's all index funds, all Vanguard index funds that are low cost. That's my only international component. I have a little international in that fund and also our Roth IRA. My firm uses Betterment to help clients because it's, again, so I believe that should be in the same place as my clients. So the fee for what we pay Betterment 0.15%, and it's just because that's where my firm's, it makes sense for some of my clients use that, and I just want to be consistent. So our Roths are in there. And this was a picture we did 2 years ago before COVID with our net worth, and then Paulina's just crushing it lately. And again, our goal is to hit 1.5, and we're getting there. We're getting close. So this is our new one now, and we're like a few $100,000 away. I think we'll hit it end of the year or next year, depending on what the market does. So it's been a really fun ride. I think we just know our controllables, which I think is key. We know what drives the income is up, the expenses down, drive the rest in the market, and we don't do really anything crazy with it. It's not important. All right. Finally, the last thing is, Pauline, do you want to do this part?
Sure. So the last piece, thinking about the continuous improvement part. So we, it sounds nerdy, but we have a monthly meeting where we talk about a couple of things during that time. It's not a very formal meeting.
Meaning like her and I do, and she leads
a meeting
it.
Between us.
Yeah.
And so part of that is talking a little bit about our finances, check in on our net worth. So we do that every month. We also travel plan if there are any outstanding travel plans that we need. And then it's also an opportunity for us to check in on our relationship and talk about things that are going well, things that are not going well, which I think ties significantly to our financial journey as well.
Yeah.
You want to hit on some other pieces?
And then we love coming to these because we just love meeting more people that are, our friends are not like this, right? And I'm sure you guys feel the same way. So we need people that are along this journey that we can talk to this about. Like Dan knows more about my personal financial history than my brother, right? And so I love it. And he gets it. He was the first person I told when I hit $1 million. I messaged him. He's the only one that was like, he'll understand, right? And then down here, my dad just passed away a few weeks ago. It's very, so this is very on our minds. Paulina's doing a really good job with her family and Joe being able to get her family stuff in order. So we've been trying to really work on that. I learned the 529 program here with Paulina. We're always trying to get better at meal prepping and travel hacking better. And we're always trying to get more people, this one, hiring people to do things we don't like to do. That's been a big push for us for the last year or two. Somebody I brought onto the firm who's an amazing person who does a lot of things I don't like to do around proofreading things and all that kind of stuff. And she's made my life better. And same thing with the tax accountant we hired. And then we're getting better at these kind of things. This is a lot to do with the FI community. And eventually here, we want to get into some donor advised funds when it makes sense down the road. And yeah, I don't know, that's it. And the last thing, I got last time a ton of questions around my side hustle. So what I offer to folks, which is fun, I have about 80 clients now. I started with 10 people 2 years ago. So it's like pick up 2 to 4 people a month. Word spreads that, hey, this person seems to know what he's doing and is nice and is knowledgeable and has high integrity. So I do a lot of cool stuff with A lot of Choose FI people reach out to me to do one-time financial planning and hourly. They're do-it-yourself people. They want nothing else. This is great. So if some people do that, a lot of Choose FI folks reach out to me to do hourly financial planning. And then I have a lot of people in my school community who want to be handheld and delegated. So anyone who wants to be delegated pays an ongoing fee for me. It's like I'm kind of like their quarterback. And some want me to do investment management for them. Not many, some do. But most people that I serve are delegators. They just want, hey, I want to meet with Justin on an ongoing basis to help me reach my goals. So that's been really cool. And so I expected to be here. It was funny, I looked at a slide from 2 years ago, I presented this. I was expecting to have like 25 people, and now I have like 80. And so it's just been really cool. It's been fun. And my biggest reflection this year, Joe pushes me on this, and so does Paulina, is it's getting to be a point where it's turning into another job. And I'm trying to balance the want to help people, but now it's turning into, hey, it's another job. And so I'm not sure what I'm going to do with that yet, because I don't like to say no. People reach out to help them, but it's getting to be a point where it's a lot. I come home after work at 3. I work till 10 every night with clients every single night, except Sundays and Fridays. So it's like getting to be a lot. With rates way too low. Yeah. So, yeah. So. Oh, good point. I don't think it matters. We cared about the number, and then now that with it doesn't matter anymore, because the business will sustain if we stopped working now. So the number doesn't really matter anymore. But the number 2 years ago allowed me to be able to take a risk and open the business and do all those things. So I can be very thankful for that. But how much money we have now doesn't matter, which is cool. So cool journey. And I have the best partner, as you could tell, ever to do this with. So how fun.
So this was a slide that we threw up last time that we did this, I think 2 years ago now. And so we had laid out several goals that we were trying to reach. And so you'll see Justin's first one hit $1 million in 3 years. He was able to achieve that over this past year. Building his business was another goal that he had. And then being able to retire from teaching in 2 to 4 years from 2 years ago. And he's doing that this year. So he was able to achieve all those. I had 2 goals, hit 750 in 5 years. And so I'm still working towards that and on track for that. Developing a side hustle, we've gone through 2 attempts and we're still working on our next one. And then get married and house hack. And so we're hoping then to get married next year. So, yeah. Any questions?
The last time we did this, the reason why we like to do this is because last time we like sharing, 1, and 2, we got a lot of feedback.
Yeah.
And we made quite a few changes. Like I said, the 529 account was a huge piece that we got from Cam, who was here that last time, and it was helpful. So if anybody has any questions or feedback, we'd love to learn and like to make changes that maybe we're missing. So, Luke, the man, the myth, the legend. What's up, man?
My question is about the multiple pre-tax accounts
that
you're doing. Could you explain how many there were, and then how you got access to those?
Yeah, great question. So I'll start with Paulina's pre-tax account. So Paulina is corporate America, IBM. She has only a 401k pre-tax. Her company also allows an after-tax account. For those of you who don't know, that allows you to be able to put money in after tax, and then you can convert that to a Roth IRA. So it allows you to put more money into a Roth account. So Paulina's accounts, she can do that. She can do the Roth, she can do the HSA, and she can do the brokerage account. She doesn't quite have a profitable side hustle yet, so she can't do anything with that. That's what IBM allows. That's good. And then as a public employee, I can do a 403B, which is very similar to a 401k in corporate in hospitals or police departments or schools. In addition, some allow for another account called a 457, which is another $19,500. Next year, $20,500. You can put away pre-tax, which is a huge advantage of, police officers, prison guards often have this. Most teachers have access to both, a lot do. So it allows us to put double the amount in. So you can do, for this year, like $39,000 pre-tax, which is nice. And then the Roth, like usual, everybody has. And then the small business, for those of you who don't know, that allows you to be able to open up a lot of different avenues for retirement. And typically, you can put 20 to 25%, depending on what account you open up, of profits into a solo 401k, a SEP IRA, something like that. And that allows you to, if I made $100,000 in my side business, I can put 20 grand roughly, some of the accounts 25 into that account and not have to be taxed on that. So those are those accounts. The side hustle stuff, you get to start to be really cool with the retirement accounts. It's a lot more flexible, and the business travel cards, big bucks, big points. So, yes.
So if you were to go back 5 years, is there anything you would change about what? I know your trajectory took off, but looking back, was there anything you would have done differently, or things you think you could have done differently? Yes.
I could do one, but do you want to share it?
I need to reflect. So
okay. I would have trusted. There's a lot of people around me that were telling me that my advisor was not the right fit. He was really good at relationships. He was a Northwestern Mutual guy. And I trusted him. When I got my big promotion as a teacher, he was my third call. When you think about the trust that you put into somebody. So I take that extremely seriously when I work with clients. I'm the first call now when someone has a baby, first call, those are huge responsibilities, and he did not do what was best for me. So I would have trusted a few people around me that told me that was not the right fit for that reason early on. That would have moved the needle, but it also inspired me to do the business. So that's good. I did some individual stock stuff when I was young and dumb, and it's not my thing. That's not what is going to build my wealth. So I would have probably snapped out of that quicker. I was typical male ego, and I was trying to beat the market when that's not again our strength. Our strength is the gap in putting away. So I would have done that quicker. And yeah. I should have proposed Paulina 2 years ago.
Yeah, the only thing that I would say is, so this is a funny story. So actually on our first date, I was in the middle of signing paperwork with a Northwestern Mutual person. And Justin was able to, who was selling me life insurance, and Justin was able to literally verbatim replicate exactly what the Northwestern Mutual person told me. And so then after that, I actually had the paperwork signed and everything. And so I ended up not sending it over because I was kind of like, if you're able to replicate verbatim, let me look into this. And I think it goes back to the trust piece, but even if you're meeting with someone and you get some information, I think it's worthwhile doing some research on your own. And really understanding things and not just signing a piece of paper because someone's trying to convince you of things. And so I think that over time, I think I could have done a better job at researching some of those things ahead of time. He ended up saving me, but I should have been able to save myself. So that'd be one thing.
Yeah.
Any other questions?
Thank you guys for being such an audience. I'm used to at least some talk back. Right, my sixth graders sometimes can be a little bit restless. So you guys are awesome, and thanks. If anyone has any thoughts or feedback, we'd love and very open to all of that on the way out. Or if anyone has any questions, stop on over. And yeah, Alex, do you have anything else you wanted to wrap up with before we head out? I think you're planning lunch somewhere.